Well, here we are at Cardiff. It's a lovely day, and we're going to take this Royal Jordanian A319 for a quick trip to London City. I think the cleaners are still in there, so we'll have to go and chase them out, and let's move over into the cockpit. Oh, well, there doesn't seem to be anybody in here. Just take a quick look. If we just have a quick look around the Airbus cockpit, the controls and displays are basically divided into three areas. In front of us now is the main display areas. The right hand side is the first officer's side, and obviously the left hand side is the captain's side where we are. Now this is the main display. If we go up, here's the overhead panel. This contains all the switches and systems that aren't directly flight systems. So you've got things like navigation, you've got fire, you've got hydraulics, fuel system, the electrical system, the air conditioning and the pressurization. We've got the lighting switches and so on down here, and control of the auxiliary power units. And if we go down, then this is the lower pedestal. So here we have its proper name is Multi-Function Control and Display Unit. This is where the flight plan details are input into the flight management system. I'll show you that a bit more in a little bit more detail in a second. We've got the radios, obviously the throttles, things like flap control here, speed brakes, and so on and so forth. It's just basic stuff, parking brake. Okay, so at the top of the main panel here are the controls for the autopilot. Either the captain or the first officer has access to this, and there are lots of things which are duplicated on both sides. This is the primary flying display here, with airspeed here. This is altitude. This ribbon here is the rate of climb or descent, and underneath we've got the heading. Moving across, this is the navigation display, and our flight plan will appear on there together with all the waypoints and so on, and we can change this display by altering its range and various ways that it presents that detail to us. These two displays in the middle show the aircraft systems, and down here a series of buttons which we can select a particular system like the electrics or the hydraulics or whatever, and then the appropriate display appears on the screen and we can monitor that. Right, so here's our flight plan for today. I've put it on the map. It's fairly straightforward. I'll zoom in a little bit so that we can see where we're actually going. So the only tricky bit here is because of the proximity. I mean, this is us here obviously, and we're taking off in a southeasterly direction, and the only tricky bit is here that in order to avoid possible conflicts with traffic at Bristol here, we have to make a sharp left turn and fly up the coast a little way, over Cardiff, Newport, and then up just north of Chepstow, where there's a waypoint here called Alvin, and we'll make a turn there, and when we're on our way towards London. To make it a little bit more interesting, here's Swindon rather, over here. To make it a little bit more interesting, I've chosen to route overhead the Compton VOR beacon here, because that gives us an interesting leg that takes us right past Heathrow, and we'll have a good view of Heathrow just out of the right hand side there as we go past. And then we've got a 12-mile final approach into London City, which takes us right over the obviously over central London, so we should get some good views there. The descent into London City is quite a steep one. It's a 5-degree glide slope, and so I've opted to make this quite a long leg, so that we can get ourselves properly set up and slowed down in time, because we've got to get we've got to stop. It's quite a short runway, and well, it'll be interesting to see how we get on. So yep, that's that, and back to the plane. So let's get the APU started. We can turn the beacon on, we can turn the nav lights on, seatbelt signs, no smoking signs, exit signs. Right, just call the cabin and wake them up. The APU is now running, so we can go up to the overhead panel and take the APU. Turn on the APU bleed, and we can now turn off the external power. So we're running on the aircraft's power now from the auxiliary power unit. I now need to provide the flight management system with all the flight details, our arrival and departure, our chosen routing, our fuel and passenger load, our desired cruising altitude, and lots of other bits of information, and that all goes in this control here, the McDo, or the box as it's often referred to, and I can just bring this up larger on the screen, and I've got various pages here that I need to cycle through and provide information about our flight plan. So it's fairly long-winded. I'll just get on with it, and then we'll be ready to go. Sorry, right, if I scroll through here now, you can see the flight plan on the screen, and it all hooks up, no gaps, nothing unexpected there, so that's absolutely fine. Here we are, so the doors are closed, the passengers are on board, so we can jump back in the cockpit, and it's time to do the pushback and start the engines. Pushback's always good fun. Here he comes now. Right, let's select the igniter, and we'll start engine number 2.
Cell is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
Brake off, a little bit of power, and away we go. Just might have a look and make sure there's nothing on the taxiway. No, on the other side. No, we're clear. Just taxi down steadily to the end of the runway. Right, so here we are, just on the taxiway just before we enter the runway. Got a couple of things to tick off our checklist before we enter the runway. So we'll go back inside, release the brakes, and let's go. Bit of power. Nothing coming, just as well. And here we are on the runway. Final check to make sure everything's as it should be. Okay, apply a little bit of power with the brakes on. Both engines responding as they should. And there's our takeoff power. Watching the airspeed. Here we go. V1 rotates, climbing up nicely, positive rate of climb, up with the gear, and we're away. Gonna select flaps up now. Flaps are up and we're accelerating away through 250 knots, which is our cruise speed. Into the turn. There's the coast of South Wales. See Cardiff here. There's a view out of the window. See Cardiff down below us there. We've got a height constraint on us at the moment of 6,000 feet, which is where we are. and that will continue until we reach this waypoint here, and then we'll climb again to our cruising altitude of 12,000 feet, just flying along the coast. See the bridges in the distance there? There's one, and there's the other one. We've reached our cruising altitude, 12,000 feet. And we've made our turn to the east. Unfortunately, the visibility is not too good up here. A little bit hazy, patches of blue sky, and the airfield we can see just down there beneath us is this is RAF liner. Just coming over Thatcham and Newbury. Here's the A34, the M4 interchange, junction 13. There's the Newbury bypass going away into the distance. Newbury town centre. You can see the racecourse and Greenham Common, what's left of it. We're just beginning our descent now. That's Heathrow in the distance there, we can see. "10,000 feet, gently descending, and speed is coming back, coming through 260 knots. So we're still gently descending, 1,300 feet a minute. We're at 6,400 feet, which is just about where we want to be, and just going to cruise past Heathrow. Let's have a look out of the window. We'll just get rid of that. And here are the reservoirs that are just to the west of the airport, and Heathrow runway is just coming into sight here. Looks quite busy down there. There's an aircraft just taking off, you can see just there. See it? Down to 5,000 feet now. And we better start thinking about our landing. Certainly the approach anyway. Let's wake them up in the cabin, make sure they know that we're about to land. Let's get the seat belts on, put the signs on. Just on the outskirts of London now. We're coming down to 3,000 feet. And we already are established on the localizer.
One thousand.
Minimum.
400. 300. 200.
And here we are. Welcome to London City.